One thing I'm sure you will hear today is that the death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment. Well, for the last 2 years of my life, it's been cruel and unusual punishment, and not because of any decision I have made.
Some powerful testimony from the families of murder victims at the state capitol as a Senate committee voted on party lines to move forward on a bill, the legislature's first step in doing away with Colorado's death penalty law. Colorado hasn't executed anyone since 1997. And welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Anne Trujillo. Right now, Colorado is on the path to become the 22nd state to do away with the death penalty, even though we have 3 people sitting on death row right now. Testimony at the state capitol meant revisiting some of Colorado's worst crimes. The killing of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts by a husband and father. The grandmother of a child killed in a drive-by shooting. And the murders of Vivian Wolf and Javad Marshall Fields, shot dead before he could testify in a murder trial. Javad's sister addressed the committee.
When my brother was murdered, it was because people were trying to get away with murder. And if I didn't show up to testify in court, that our family would never have had justice. So I showed up today, knowing that each of you have already taken a vote outside of what the people want.
Now, Javad's mother, Senator Rhonda Fields, is the rare Democrat opposing abolishing the death penalty. And also testifying, Jim Gum. You heard him at the top of the show. His son, Adams County Deputy Heath Gum, was gunned down in the line of duty 2 years ago. Gum says he does not believe this is a decision lawmakers should make on their own.
I am here simply to ask that you allow the voting population of Colorado to make the decision on this controversial issue. I don't believe that this issue can be properly decided by a group of 10 people or a group of 100 people or even a group of 1,000 people. We trust.
That was Jim Gum. Well, Marianne Goodland of ColoradoPolitics.com and Blair Miller of the DenverChannel.com are joining us now. You've been watching this bill, dozens of others moving through the legislature. So the death penalty repeal bill, it now moves to the House. So is this pretty much a done deal now?
I think you could more or less say that. I mean, with the Democrats in, far away a majority in the House, and I think that, it's pretty much safe to say it's a done deal. I think there's going to be some opposition from Republicans. I think that there's already, everybody knows, I think they're going to try to send it back to the voters like they did in the Senate, but I don't think that's expected to work.
Because this has been raised over the years. Why this year? What's different this year, Marianne?
This year, the bill had a fairly significant change in order to appease Senator Fields. Didn't work. She's still very much opposed to it and testified at length on this both on Thursday and Friday morning when they held the final vote in the Senate. The bill, the 2020 version of this bill, excludes the 3 men who are sitting on death row, including the 2 men responsible for the murder of her son.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing was that this vote on Friday morning drew another Democrat, Jesse Danielson of Wheat Ridge, in opposition. She voted against it. And then Senator Owen Hill, who is a conservative Christian from Colorado Springs, voted for it. And we had 2 Republicans who weren't even there Friday morning, Senator Ray Scott and Don Coram, and they're both from the Western Slope, which said to me that the Republicans knew they just didn't have the muscle to oppose this, and there weren't enough Democrats that were going to be against it for them to be able to fight it.
So what happens now to the 3 men on death row?
Well, I think we've been talking to the governor's office trying to figure out if, he would consider granting them clemency. I'm not sure that that's necessarily a step he's going to take, though I think it's definitely a possibility.
He's definitely hinted at it, that he is interested in
But they were excluded from this
They were excluded from this bill. They still sit on death row.
Right.
And that won't change if the bill passes in its current form.
But
as you said,
I mean, limbo, right?
Yeah, we're 23 years from the last time that anyone executed someone. That's including a Republican governor during that time. And so, I think until a Republican could possibly get back into the governor's office, which, we haven't seen anyone get near that in a while, I think that's the only way that these men could possibly get executed. Although I'm interested personally to see what Polis does on the clemency, because you know, everyone talks about how much of a liberal he is, and I think that's something, like you said, it's something he's hinted at, but does he want to take that step and, you know, be the person to do that when, you know, Hickenlooper, for instance, let them sit there for, you know, the whole time and nothing happened, but that's one less mark on his record that he didn't grant them clemency, I think.
Correct. And Governor Hickenlooper did, in fact, put a stay on the execution of Nathan Dunlap, who was the so-called Chuck E. Cheese killer, and Polis has done nothing to undo that stay.
Well, we will see what happens with that as the legislature moves forward. Let's talk about some of the other issues that are pressing right now. I know we've heard a lot about family leave. What's happening with that bill right now?
We haven't seen a proposal in bill form to address the mandated family leave program that Democrats are interested in and that most of the state's major business groups are very much opposed to. The governor has indicated that he supports more of a private market proposal, not one that is run by the state. That's not exactly sitting well with Democrats who want a state-mandated, state-run program. We had a task force in December that came out with its recommendations, and we're still waiting to see what that bill looks like. But there is another interesting sort of wrinkle on this. The governor wants to set up a family and medical leave program for state employees. We have 30,000 people in the state employment system. And he put this in the form of a budget proposal to the Joint Budget Committee. And the Joint Budget Committee has now twice, on a unanimous vote, voted this down because they say he does not have the authority to do this. Now, the governor has an opinion from the Attorney General's office that said that the authority exists, except, and there's an important little caveat, unless it is not a prevailing practice. And the Joint Budget Committee staff have looked at this, and they said there are 14 states that offer some form of leave like this to their state employees. That is not what they consider to be a prevailing practice, and the Joint Budget Committee has steered clear of this.
And that's not the only area where the governor and the JBC are at odds right now.
No, yeah, it's. I mean, I think they're fighting about a lot of different things. You know, which projects are they going to fund? Where do we have the money to fund certain projects in the first place? I think, and because you know, a lot of the discussion early on in the session has been like, what can we move around here? Because we don't have the type of money that we've had in years past. Anything more on that?
There's also been some sort of back and forth over what's going on with our corrections system. We have a private prison that's going to be closing now in roughly about 5 weeks, and they have hundreds of inmates that they have to move out of that private prison and into state prisons. And the question has been how to fund the people who will be needed to take care of that. They want to reopen 2 towers of Centennial South, which is down in Fremont County. That prison has been closed since 2012, but it was set up as a what they call administrative segregation, a 23-hour-a-day lockdown kind of thing. So they have been making improvements and changes to that prison in order to get it ready for prison inmates to come back. But it's not ready. They don't have the employees to staff it right now.
5 weeks. Okay.
5 weeks.
Very interesting. Marianne Goodland and Blair Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Back in a moment.